we are. 20 points to whoever can figure out what kind of problem am I trying to solve with this crazy looking contraption I am flying. Looks like a neck brace. 20 points.
That first R&D did not produce a suitable harness, and so high energy flew me back down for a second R&D, and then flew a specialist up from Mexico, and we worked for another week, and produced a pretty decent harness. There's still two issues to be worked out. Anyway, I'm just gonna go through the remaining problems, because I'm kind of, my idea was to present these ideas. If the sport wants to pick them up and run with them, that's great. If not, that's fine, but I'm not gonna spend the rest of my life doing this. So I'm gonna share the remaining problems. I call it the push, the pluck and push. Hang on a second. Let me get something I can show you with. I'll be right back. Okay, we're gonna use this guy. His name's Herman. Thanks for helping us. Oh, no problem, Jim. Okay, so here he is flying supine or Suprone, either way, right? Notice how these are straight. Well, when you have two lines in front of your shoulders like this, the problem is, let's say now he's on takeoff and he's running. He's got his arms like this. He's running to get airborne. Now look at the angle here. See this angle? That happens every time. It's not so noticeable on steep launches, but on flat slope launches where you have to run, what happens is on that very last step, when your feet are kind of getting light, right? You're about ready to fly. You're almost there. This angle plucks your feet forward. It just kind of like plucks them off the ground before you're really ready to stop running, and boom, it feels like you jumped into your glider. I'm going to show you some footage of that. Look at the angle that's created coming straight down to my shoulder and then back about 30 degrees to my rear end. That's the angle we're talking about here. It plucks you. You're going to see a pluck action right here. Straps are in front of my shoulders. Oh, pluck. Slow motion. Pluck. It just swings your butt forward. And I thought, now here's a takeoff with the straps behind the shoulders. And it wasn't that great of a takeoff, but it didn't pluck me off the ground. Then you have to rotate your arms back. This is one of my first Suprone attempts. We're really trying to get away from having to rotate forward and backward through those risers. And I have come up with a solution that could be developed. If you have the patience, it's coming up. All right. Guys, that was a fun flight. And I'm embarrassed to say it took me a long time to figure out what was going on. It is the angle. And on that last step, it plucks you. It just plucks your feet right off the ground, and boom, you end up sitting in your seat. And the very same phenomena creates another problem on landing that I've already dealt with in landing considerations 1 and 2. So the same angle thing. Let's say now, instead of running for takeoff, let's say I'm pushing all the way out for a full flare. Now I'm pushing all the way out for a full flare. Larry Tudor said, try to kick the keel with your heels, flare like an angel. Well, look at the angle I've created now. Problem is, when you do a full flare like that, you can't hold your weight back here for more than a second. And so what happens is your glider's flaring and coming up, and then right when you really need to hold that flare, all this weight mass swings forward because you just can't hold it back there anymore. And so now all this weight suddenly swung forward, which brings your nose down, and you end up in a whack because you just brought all your weight forward. As a matter of fact, in this example, my
my initial flare isn't aggressive enough to even get my butt back. And you'll see I'm kind of doing a wimpy flare, and I can't even get my hips to go back. You'll see me try to push them back, and I can't even get them to go back. Watch really closely here. Just right there. See, I can't even get them to go back because of that angle over the shoulders. So that is.
So it's the same phenomena. It's the angle created when you take off, when you're running for takeoff, and it's the same angle created when you're doing the push out for landing. So this has not been dealt with. Now I have come up with a solution. Kenny Brown has also come up with a solution. I'm going to show you his solution right now. He's working on a Suprone harness.
Yeah, this is Kenny's. This is the only picture I have of it. You see the hoops that go to the rear. He's able to fly in Suprone and prone. He can rotate back and forth to both positions.
I've sent some parts to Kenny Brown. Hopefully, you know, he can bring that to production. Kenny's harness can be flown both in the Suprone and in the prone position without having to rotate his arms through risers. See, if I'm coming in for a landing and I'm going to need to flare, I'd have to rotate my arms through these risers and get on this side of them before I can get a full flare. Well, you know, without creating that angle. Now in this situation, it lands just like a regular glider. But you know, for Suprone or supine, either one to go mainstream, I think we really need a harness that you don't have to mess with rotating through the risers. Back and forth, because you know you don't always have time to do that. So Kenny did the hoops behind. I had another engineer over at my place one time. His name was Peter Jampgard, and he said, "Well, that's just the long way around. Why don't you go in front?" And so I decided to try that, and I calculated how many inches I need the risers held in front of my shoulders for me not to experience the pushback on my shoulders. And I came up with a crazy contraption, and yes, I flew it, and here it is, and I'll do a narrative on top of it and explain to you how it's working. All right.
Here I am.
I'm not going to open it up anymore.
At Diana Almond's place, and a big shout out to Diana. Diana, thank you so much. Let me use your sewing machine. You donated harnesses for us to tear apart.
Not really. I'll probably
I think it's Cloud-Based Foundation that you work with. Anyway, thank you. Couldn't have done it without you.
I do not visualize this as being a solid tube. I visualize this as being jointed. This portion will be solid from here to here. Okay, but then this will be jointed, and it may be jointed here. And it'll be a lot like your phalanges on your finger. You know, where when the pilot picks up the harness, and it'll be like one tube, probably no more than 1 inch in diameter, and it'll be covered on both sides by the continuous webbing that we need. It'll be built right into the harness. There won't be any carabiners. It's just all one continuous webbing all the way into the harness. And then, so as you pick up the glider to launch, it's like the flanges on your finger. It all goes flexible this way. Then as you launch, it all tightens up and locks into position. So you have this in here. Should work great.
So here I go. Should work great. Famous last words. And I did not have a spot picked out. I just headed out on the lake bed looking for a spot where I could fly. I really didn't want to test this off the top of Dog Mountain on its first flight, if you know what I mean. So obviously this was just a kind of a miniature nightmare to get into, and I'm sitting here wondering, what am I doing?
You're going to want
to go that way.
First, I wanted to just run on some fairly flat slope to see if I could run. See if I can run. Look at this. I can run. It's not plucking me off the ground. I was able to do a full run without being plucked. This is good.
Looks like a takeoff area.
And again, the thing to watch for is, am I being plucked off the
Here,
ground,
launching this thing.
or can I do a full run? And on terrain like this, you really need to be able to run. But that first flight gave me confidence that I could do a full run. So here we go. Terrible launch area. Don't try this at home.
Clear.
Did just fine. Now watch this.
Easy to hold the flare. Easy to hold the flare. Oh yeah. That might just be it.
Decided to give it one more try. Same location, change the camera mount. I want to see, can I run into the air without being plucked? And can I do a full flare without having my butt swing forward?
Clear.
Did it.
Oh yeah.
Nailed it. That was perfect. Then I decided to head to dog.
You're recording.
Okay. Not going to do any G maneuvers on this harness. Just test the takeoff and landing. Clear.
Takeoff went okay. Now I'm slid way forward in this thing, and yes, that's about as uncomfortable as I've ever been in a hang gliding harness. But okay. Okay, Jim. Get away from the hill and do some scrunching. It's like, oh, this thing. There you go. Yes, much better. Oh, relief. Okay. Not the most comfortable flight, but again, the pluck didn't show up on steep launches. Never did. It usually showed up on shallow launches, such as between the rocks and Chelan. And at Tico, I started to notice the plucking action on launch. You can see in the distance right there that X is, that's where we just were for the first couple of flights. And the main thing I want to see here is when I come in for a landing, is this going to continue to flare nicely for me? So just fast forward to the landing. My contraption. I confess I was going to be really happy to be back on the ground. It's like, okay, it's working, but proof of concept, folks, that's all it is. Again, it would not be a rigid device. It would be a linked, like the phalanges on your finger, so that when you picked it up, it would be integrated with a nice Suprone harness, so that when you picked it up, it would all go flexible, and when you loaded it up, it would hold the risers 8 inches forward of your shoulders. This is I hope you don't mind me repeating that a few times. I don't want people out there flying neck braces. They might end up in one. This would be a flexible device. And what we want to see here is, can I get a full flare in? And I can.
That was a piece of cake.
Perfect. Really did work well. It is a possible solution to
Does not swing
a
like
very
this.
persistent problem in Suprone and supine hang gliding.
Okay, I'm going to cut this short. Nothing fancy, because this computer, it's taken me a year to get it back and recover all this video. And right now, it is so glitchy. It's like shutting down, and I'm having to restart it like every 5 minutes. So I'm going to make this quick. I just wanted to share the final possible solution to the pluck and the push problem. Yeah, so I've got a great Suprone harness that High Energy did produce. I've got fly bars. I've got wheels. If someone out there wants to put this into production, get in touch with me. You would need to be qualified. A hang gliding company, of course, would be ideal. I haven't had any encouragement from hang gliding companies. But again, I have flown this way now for 3 years. I've had no incidents. I've had, especially when I do the roll-in landings, it's been boring. It's so easy, it's boring. It would definitely make hang gliding safer. Don't forget the crash restraint line is also another great idea that is, take advantage of it, develop it. But of course, hang gliding right now doesn't have a lot of money for developing. And so, and of course right now we're in the middle of COVID. But I just wanted to share what I could. This harness, High Energy decided not to put this into production because I decided to quit flying and they were following my lead. So it's my fault. But now that I have not been flying for over a year, am I really going to stop flying? Probably not. Probably not. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it needs somebody else to pick up the baton. The Flybar is a patented product. I did receive a U.S. patent for it. I didn't want to. I went on the advice of others in the industry, and I had 3 other people advise me to patent it, and so I did. And it just was a bad idea. But anyway, it is patented. So you got a patented product. There is a towing. This design could be used for towing. I have a design for that. And it all hinges on the flybar. The flybar is what makes it happen. Matter of fact, I'm going to end this video if I can find the Frank Culver video at High Energy Sports. If I can find that video, I gotta keep moving this so it doesn't shut down on me and go splat. Okay, Frank was our biggest supporter. Frank is a big supporter of everything seated, foot forward. He always has been. He's been he's just such an inspiration. He was a huge inspiration to me. Always has been. Even when I was 13 and he came out with the Culver Sky Sail, I was just like, ah! I saw it in Low and Slow magazine, published by Joe Faust. Matter of fact, I got together with those guys.
And this is my hero. You're my hero, Frank. How old are you now, man?
It's a backup battery.
Good on you.
Yeah.
I shouldn't stop flying. What are you, 80? Forgot. Still flying. Dockweiler Beach. This was the last day of the of the R&D. Flying with no hands.
Beautiful, Frank.
Good job.
And that's Joe Foss running down to help him carry it back. What a crew. I love these guys.
They're helping each other.
Helping each other. Yep.
That's what it's about.
This is Bob Kazuski, who I'm getting to know for the first time in person, and I'm going to say, this group of guys, they fly because they love to fly. They love to fly. Okay, hey, Sunny Jim here. I'm here with Frank Culver at High Energy Sports. And to let you know a little bit about who Frank Culver is, if anybody doesn't know.
No, a lot of people don't know.
The inventor of the Culver variometer, way back in what year was that?
Ooh, that would have been about 1972 or 3, something like that.
And the Culver Sky Sail,
Which was 71.
71.
First year of the modern worldwide sport of hang gliding.
I'm going to put a pic right here of the Culver Sky Sail. And look at that plan form. I mean, that's a high aspect ratio glider. It's very similar to what we fly today with our modern hang gliders. And Frank found out about this project to create a harness for hang gliding, specifically for the Suprone foot forward position, where we fly in the seated position with our feet above the base tube. And I was, what inspired, and Frank, now I started a GoFundMe, right? And I started a GoFundMe because there's no time limits on GoFundMe, and eventually we would have raised enough money to make this happen. But Frank stepped up to the plate, and he's our largest contributor, and he made this happen probably a year ahead of time. What inspired you to move this project forward, Frank? I mean, I really appreciate it.
Well, I always flew in the seated position when I was hang gliding all through the 1970s. And then I went on to a foot launch balloon in 1980 that I flew in a swing seat, sat in upright position. I always liked the upright position for flying. And hang gliding, of course, quickly went away from that, and everybody was flying prone. And I saw Jim's ideas here on his Suprone position above the bar as the solution to the problem that took people away from seated flying in the first place, and that was the lack of the ability to move far enough forward for adequate pitch control of the glider. Flying in a seated position, you come up against the base tube of the glider and you can't go any farther than that. Prone, they were over the base tube and they could move their weight forward of the base tube of the I said of the glider, I mean of the control bar, and so that gave them more. They could fly faster. His Suprone position above the bar makes it possible to get all of the control of prone flying and still be in an upright position. And I always liked that flying position. So I saw what he was doing as a way to bring hang gliding back to that flying position. And I was briefly attracted to paragliding back around 2012 because they were flying in that position. And I thought, gee, these guys are flying in the position I like to fly in, and I don't want to fly a hang glider prone. After I left hang gliding in 1979-80 period, I recently got back into flying 3 years ago in 2015. So I thought, boy, I really would like to be able to fly in an upright position like I used to. So anyway, I saw the future of this as really bringing people into a very comfortable way to fly a hang glider. And I just think that it's an important advancement in hang gliding.
Thanks, Frank. Let's part with your debt of gratitude. I'm just going to wrap this up. There's a lot of other things that have happened, obviously. This computer has shut down on me about 7 times since an hour ago. So I'm just going to roll this last clip. I think this should be put into production. What do you think? Got a few little glitches, but pretty much it's all been thought out. We know what we're looking at. And so it would be a safer way to fly. It'd be an easier way to learn to fly. People would not have to do the flare timing. They could just roll in on their landings. It feels like parking a car when you land this thing. It's a little boring if you've been flying prone. I'll warn you, you're going to miss prone. But for people who are new to aviation, I think it'd be a fantastic and much simpler way to teach free flight. Of course, when a person does crash, they're crashing in the forward position and not the head position. So the risk of breaking your neck is reduced dramatically. If you'd like to contact me, reluctantsparrow@gmail.com. Thanks.
Holding it out like he's doing is,
It's a real good idea.
It is.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's excellent. I can't wait to see the real one.
Yeah. We brought gifts for everybody.
Oh.
And receipts for Fred.
Okay.
Does YKK actually have 2 miles up the street? Yeah. I mean, they're the biggest zipper company in the world. Yeah, they got a little hub here, and they're great. No kidding. I wouldn't have thought you could just go to YKK.
They're doing great. This is really going well.
Georgia, but they have a great facility right here.
Catch you later.
And that's why I never moved away from Southern California.
Just me and my muse, sick of singing the blues. It reminds me of a place I'm sure I've been before. Just me and my muse, sick of singing